Let's turn to our newsmaker today. Kerala's Chief Secretary, Sarda Murlidharan, has sparked a debate on dark complexion and how society views it. What prompted her to write the post was a comment she said made by someone about her work, who told Murlidharan her stewardship as Chief Secretary is as black as her husband's was white. Her husband was the previous Chief Secretary of Kerala. After making it public, she quickly deleted the post, and then, when she saw the response to it, brought it back with a longer message on how she had learned to own her dark skin. Her comments have sparked a raging debate in Kerala and outside. Is black beautiful or not? Or is that simply political wokeism as it's described? I spoke earlier today to Sarda Murlidharan. Listen in. Joining me now is our newsmaker, Sarda Murlidharan, is the Kerala Chief Secretary who sparked off this debate over color of the skin, about being black and dare one say beautiful. Appreciate your joining me, Sarda Murlidharan. I want to ask you this. What prompted you after all these years in public life, in public service, to suddenly put down your thoughts about being a woman and dark and what it meant to be vilified because of the color of your skin?
Well, it was a very interesting comment. Like I said, I mean, it's not often that you hear your administrative tenure being judged in terms of color. So it took me aback. It took my husband aback as well, and what actually is behind a comment of that nature. It was not the person who made the comment thought he was making a joke, but for me it was a conflation of both my skin color with a sense of what black connotes for administration, which I thought was rather strange. And I needed to get it out of my system, first of all, which was what I did.
Is this something you've been living with?
Yeah, I mean, all my life. That's
you say you wanted to get it out of your system, but is this something you've been living with for years?
Being regarded as lesser, as a lesser being on account of color has been something that I have been living since almost ever since I remember.
But do you believe it's still a form of discrimination? For example, in the civil service, you've ended up being the Chief Secretary of Kerala, one of the few women Chief Secretaries. So does it really lead to any form of discrimination because of the color of the skin? Does it lead to prejudice in your view, as you suggest in your Facebook post? Or is that much in the past?
No, I mean, it's not. If it were in the past, then I wouldn't have heard a comment of that nature, right? So discrimination has many forms. It is not about it's not necessarily active and in-your-face discrimination. It can be very subtle. It could also be subconscious. It could not be. It might be well-intended too. I mean, I've had so many well-intended people tell me, whatever happened to you? Have you been out in the sun too much? You've gone so dark, and why are you wearing these kind of colors? They don't suit you. And these come from well-wishers. Hearing this on a very regular basis can be quite demeaning. Each one of us of color and who has some complex or the other hidden up our sleeve find ways and means of negotiating that complexity and coming to terms with people who don't know better. But sometimes, I mean, like I said, just something which was meant to be among friends. And then I realized that it was going way beyond my circle of friends, which is why I deleted it in the first place. And but I brought it back precisely because I was told that it was important that somebody.
But does it affect work?
Does it affect work? No. It doesn't affect work.
But does it
It doesn't
affect
affect my
work,
work here.
Mrs. Muralidharan? Does it affect your work, or your promotions, or your sense of
No, no,
how
not
your
at all.
colleagues see you? Do you really believe it affects that, or are these subtle perceptions?
No, I wouldn't say that my skin tone has affected my work, has affected, generally, it has not affected the perception of what I do. Uh, but it was I have had, obviously, comparisons made, and I also had, issues of skin tone and beauty and all of that raised. But these two coming together has not been a common occurrence, no.
But Ms. Murli, there are Indian traditional beauty concepts have often revolved around fairness, matrimonial ads, fair and lovely creams, inventing matrimonial ads, inventing phrases like wheatish complexion. We can go back even to our mythological epics, where usually the villains will be seen as dark skinned in some form. Do you believe, therefore, that this is something that we have had to live with because of our social conditioning, and therefore what you're trying to do is encourage a younger generation to break out of that?
That's precisely the thing. It's a socio-cultural conditioning, very cultural too. It's been ingrained, it's been indoctrinated into us, and it's about breaking that indoctrination. And how do you break that indoctrination is a question. So it really doesn't. I mean, it's not just about. I mean, does this very tangibly affect your career? No, that's not really the question. The question is, has this been something that has been interfering with your perception of self? Has this been something that has been bringing you down? Have you had to fight it just in order to be a normal breathing human being?
You mentioned in your Facebook post how your children advised you and helped you bury this ghost. What exactly did your children tell you, Mr. Muralidharan?
Well, in the safety of the home, you generally wear your insecurities on your sleeve. And then when your children take those insecurities on their head and turn it and try to get you to see them differently, it helps. That's one point of it, one part of it. The other part is also to look at the world through their eyes. Um, because whether I like it or not, I have also, to a large extent, internalized this narrative, um, and felt that looked and seen beauty where I see fairness, where and not notice the beauty lying in dark places. So they have actually forced me to see that. And then I find that you actually need to go in search of such beauty. When somebody when a dark model walks the ramp, you need to stop and say, look at her, and what is it that she brings to the table? How is she different? And and enjoy the fact that she brings her own definition of beauty, and we need to see it and appreciate it. So yeah, that's what they did to me.
Your how did your husband, who's also been the former chief secretary of Kerala, in fact your predecessor, and you contrast his fair skin with yours, how did he react to you actually going public with this? How have your colleagues reacted, your juniors or your peers? Do they feel that this is a debate worth triggering, or are you a bit of a lone ranger when you went out and put yourself out there and spoke about being dark skinned?
Okay, so the responses have been very interesting. Mostly, I've had two sets of responses. One is that, why are you allowing a petty comment get to you? That's been one series of comments. Another has been, we know exactly what you're talking about because we've been through this. And I feel that the first comment actually comes from a place of privilege, of not having gone through this. And the second, and most everybody who's been dark-skinned has come out with this, but not just everybody who's dark-skinned. I've had people who are bald and say, you know, how that's affected their sense of self. So it's about body shaming as well. It's about complete narrative of where you feel inadequate and how those inadequacies are thrust upon you, reinforced by social conditioning, by people who are, you know, closest to you and who care for you. That also is part of the story because you just can't escape it. So that's been something that we've both talked about. And you know, what does this have to do with my husband Venu, and how did he see this? Uh, I mean, I didn't ask him in a post when I put up the first post, and he also felt that I really needed to just get it out of my system. So it is just a 3-line thing. So that is okay. But later on, when I withdrew it, we had this conversation as to maybe I could turn this around into something which is positive, something which positively talks about Black as beautiful, as claiming that space. And by virtue of the fact that I would do it, there would be a change. But so when you look at my colleagues, there've been some colleagues who've been saying that, okay, you're making too much of a deal out of something very small, and there've been some who've been saying, but most, and particularly my female colleagues, have all been saying, yes, I'm glad you spoke out. I'm glad you called this out.
Okay, in conclusion, let me ask you, do you believe anything will change as a result of people coming out? You've said at the end, Black is beautiful, Black is gorgeousness, that I dig Black. Do you believe that more and more people in Malayali society, in Kerala itself, and indeed across this country will realize that times have changed? Or do you believe you're fighting a bit of a losing battle, given that these prejudices have existed for centuries?
The prejudices have existed, but also I find that the counter movements also exist, and these are pretty evident now. You know, if you've got a dark model walking the ramp, if you've got makeup for dark people to you know, highlight who you are and the luster of being dark, then we are talking about the fact that another discourse is already there, and this might help to speed in that discourse.
Well, all I can say, Sarda Murlidharan, as someone who's often also been accused of being a dark-skinned anchor, I'm more than happy to wear the color of my skin on my sleeve and be proud of the way I am, as I'm sure you are. And thank you for speaking out so loudly and clearly. I think and I hope it will make at least some difference out there.
Thank you. Thank you, Rasti. Bye.
Black is and always will be beautiful. So I believe.